Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit. Today we are joined by Sean Patton, who is an executive coach at Novus Global, a keynote speaker and author, a former U.S. Army Special Forces commander, and the host of the No Limit Leadership podcast. Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
First and foremost, thank you so much for your service.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
And can we start off? Can we hear a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Novus Global?
Yeah, of course. Sean Patton, I originally from outside little town, outside Kansas City in Kansas, went to West Point, graduated in 2005, and then spent 10 years as an active duty officer. Very lucky in that almost my entire time was leading frontline soldiers in the Army infantry as a rifle platoon leader and later scout and sniper platoon leader. Went into Army Special Forces, earned my Green Beret, and was able to command two different ODA or detachment Special Forces teams. Got out in 2015 and had a entrepreneurial itch I wanted to scratch. Also knew that leadership is where I wanted to go. Like I deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. I did all the things, kicked in all the doors, did all that stuff. But through that whole time, for me, it was always about the people and solving big, hard problems. It was about doing things with a team, and it really came down to leadership for me. So leadership's been my passion since the beginning. But I didn't want to be the military officer who got out and said, all right, business leaders, let me tell you about real leadership, when I'd never been in business a day in my life. I like to make the joke that too many military officers try to do that, usually with the first name colonel. So for me, it was, how can I, test my experience, right? Like what applies for the military, what doesn't, what's different, what's going to fail. And so came up with a two-prong approach, which was one, get a formal education in business. So I got my MBA. And then I thought, well, if I can get my own company, if I can build my own company and get it self-sustainably profitable, it doesn't have to be a giant company. It doesn't have to be some unicorn. It can just be a company that runs by itself and makes money. That seems to be the best way to test and see what works, what doesn't, and make mistakes. And it turns out that trying to start a business with zero business experience or industry experience is the fastest way to make as many mistakes as possible. So 3 years, a failed business and a bankruptcy later, I started my second company. And, we grew that to where 3 years later, it was a multi-million-dollar valuation and runs itself. And so that's when I transitioned. So I've been doing this about 5 years now as an executive coach and doing leadership training with companies. And it's been just a journey of exploration, of service, of learning, of iteration, of partnerships. And very recently, I have moved my coaching practice, as you mentioned, under Novus Global, which is a global executive coaching firm. And before I talk too much, let me just say that was really about, this is about partnerships. And as I started doing exploration after doing this, going in my 5th year, about where am I at my best? Like, what is my zone of genius? And where do I really excel? And I went through an exercise of actually reaching out to people like in my family, friends, in my business, to tell me what they see. Like, where do they see me light up? Where do they see my energy come up? Where do they see me excel? And one of the themes that came across was when I was with a team of other elite performers. And that was interesting because I've been doing this solopreneur thing with just, a few assistants for a few years. And they were right. And so when I found Novus Global, I was very impressed. It was the most professionally run organization with high agency people that really gave me energy and been the biggest thing since special operations that I had seen. Wow. And so now I'm moving underneath them. I'm able to do bigger projects, work with bigger clients, and pour into myself. So maybe just an example there of how the partnerships and some self-exploration can lead to achieving like next level of performance for yourself.
Do you think that sort of, drive and being around other elites, would you attribute that to your military background?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that was at least a data point for me looking back, that I feel like one of the moments in my life where I really felt this is what I was meant to do. Like,
Right.
this is where I feel at home. This is where I do feel like I'm elevated to the best version of myself, was when I was the commander of those special forces teams and being around other, I tell people all the time, like, Green Berets, man, the best human beings on the planet. And you're around other people who have those similar beliefs and values. You're around people who want to put themselves in positions to be better. They want to be challenged. They want to tackle the biggest problems. And you've got, 27, 28, 29-year-olds that speak multiple languages, are dealing with customs, are dealing with indigenous. I put 6 Green Berets on a target with 300 Afghanis at night executing missions, and come back and they put on a suit and brief the ambassador the next day. Like, wow. It's a different type of person. And so when I was around that, I felt myself elevated to that level. And what I had found, and I found in multiple areas of my life, is sort of a lesson, especially when you get in entrepreneurship, especially if you're running your own business, is like doing a bit of a check, right, every once in a while around you, and who's in my circle and who am I spending time with. And then, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Am I around people who are challenging me? Am I around people who are just reinforcing my own beliefs and my own thoughts? Diversity of thought, that diversity of experience, and people who are pushing you to become a better version of yourself, I think is important for anyone that's trying to achieve their potential.
Well, and it's funny to me, before we move too far away from it, it's funny you mentioned, KCK and, West Point and all that. I'm in Lee Summit right now. So there you go.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, you're not too far. It's very small right now. Yeah, I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas.
Okay.
But I was, born in Kansas City at St. Joe Hospital. My whole family, my mom's from St. Joe, from North Kansas City. So I was
born at St. Joe, man.
Oh, wow. Our records are next to each other. They're in a file somewhere next to each other.
No, I might not have been. I'm pretty sure, though. I'd have to ask my mom. But yeah, that's pretty wild. That's a small world. So, I mean, Gates or Bryant's, what's the cue of choice?
I gotta go Gates for me personally.
or Joe's Oklahoma. I mean, that's our Oklahoma Joe's. Now it's Joe's Kansas City, but there's another one there. So I'm curious, when people come to Novus Global, what are some of the pain points and problems that they're experiencing that are bringing them to Novus Global and seeking your help and guidance?
That's a great question. What I have seen mostly is that they are high performers. They're people who have accomplished a lot in their business, professionally, whether they're an executive in a larger organization or have their own company. And they've hit this point where they've sort of maybe accomplished more than they thought they were ever going to. And they've reached a point where their life feels a bit unsteady. Like, they're doing a lot, but maybe there's a lack of total fulfillment. Maybe there's a realization that, what got them here, the systems, the processes, the mindset that got them here is one thing, and give thanks to that. But they know that what is next for them will require a different version of themselves. And we talk about the difference between high performers and meta performance at Novus Global. And so that high performance mindset is like, they've said, I want to be the best, right? That's what high performers do. I'm sure a lot of listeners, I know I relate to this. Like, I want to be the best, looking around, what are other people doing? I know I can do that. And whatever it's going to take, I'm going to get there.
Right.
And you reach a certain level where you start questioning that, like looking external, and it starts to be, you almost reach a level of maturity where you realize the battle, the real fight, the real drive is all going to come from internal. And so the question, instead of asking, how can I be the best, which is a high performance question, to meta performance is, what am I capable of? Right. And that's a different question. That's a different mindset. There's a different challenge there. And so people who have maybe, dipped their toes into, are starting to ask themselves that question of like, what am I actually capable of, and what do I want to create? That's when they find their way to Novus Global and find a home there and work with one of the coaches, myself included, because those are the people I love to work with. Those are the people who are starting to question and want to craft a vision that is so big and so exciting and so thrilling that they know it's going to require them to transform into a different version of themselves. And that's going to require working, with a coach. I tell people all the time, it's like, I'll be on a vision call and they'll lay out, I want to double the size of my company and I want to, spend more time with my kids. I want to do that stuff. And they'll lay it all out. And I'll say, okay, if I put you in a room for a day, are you confident that you could write out a plan that you would execute and accomplish that?
Right.
And if they're like, yeah, I'm like, all right, well, you don't need me then.
Right.
So working with a coach, I tell people all the time, like I have between 3 and 5 coaches, depending on what I'm doing at the time. Wow. I would never work with an executive coach who doesn't have a coach. That's like, if there's a little tip out there of like, if you're looking at like who to work with, ask them who their coach is. And if they're like, no, I don't have a coach, like, so you believe enough in coaching that you want me to pay you, but you're not going to pay somebody else. Right. And so I have 3 to 5 coaches in different areas of my life. Anything I want to get good at, I want to coach, because when we approach life like you want to approach it like an athlete, and an athlete is always questioning, like, what am I capable of? How can I get better? And then every athlete knows that they are going to be better with a coach so that they can focus on execution. And so, yeah, that's when someone comes to us and when someone comes to Novus Global and they start asking that question of what am I capable of? And then we set a vision where it's like, that's so crazy. Like, I don't even know if that's possible, but it's exciting. Right. And it's going to require me to become a new version of myself, to do inner work, to transform my own mindset, my own way of being. Man, if that excites you to be able to create and actively go after a vision like that, you might be a good fit for a Novus Global coach.
And what does it look like when, a business owner or a leader really needs a coach or, someone like Novus Global to help them and guide them, but they don't seek it out and they just keep on going the way things have always been going? What does that look like?
It looks like repeatedly getting the outcomes or results you don't want.
And just being stuck in that loop, right?
Yep. Just like, I'm trying these things. It didn't work. If you find yourself overwhelmed, if you find yourself out of balance, and I don't like necessarily balance as like a straight line thing, right? But if you have a result, like a lot of clients, maybe they've over-indexed for something like financial return. And so they're like, yeah, I'm making all this money, but my kids don't talk to me.
Right.
Okay. Well, is that the life you want?
Right.
Maybe for some people it is.
Right.
Yeah. You're probably. So if you lay out like, this is who I want to be, this is the life I want, this is who I want to be. And then what you actually have, like current reality versus, what we would call a generative future. If there's whatever that, if you have a gap there, then that's someone who a coach would benefit from. It's funny. I was talking with a group of senior executives, and I asked them this question. I said, and these are successful. It was a different group, a group that I do some work with. And I said, how many of you are on a performance improvement plan? And nobody raises their hand, right? Because they're like, right. I'm not on a PIP. Like I'm the star, I'm like, every single one of you should be on a PIP. Every single one of you should be on a performance improvement plan from the day you show up at the company to the day you leave the company. And if you work for yourself, or if you want to achieve your capable, like you should have your own personal performance improvement plan. Because what are you saying if you don't have one? That your performance is you're stagnant, you're just good. And that's where we get into whether it's, we see this in companies a lot. I see it in companies, maybe you see it in partner companies, where it's like we have this, for some reason, we have this idea that just like doing the job is somehow training you to get better at doing your job.
Right.
And I would say when you first come in and you're onboarding, like getting up to speed, getting competent in a new role, sure, that might be from just doing it and getting reps in, but that's not going to take you to the next level. And that's why in business, we have this, however long since the beginning of management, we've had this idea of the Peter principle of getting promoted to your level of incompetency. And that's why we have it across companies, because we think that because someone's been a good salesperson, that means to me they're going to be a great manager.
Right. Right.
Those are different skill sets. And because you've been a good manager, you're going to be a good director. but being a leader of other leaders is way different than being a leader of individual contributors, right? And being a strategic leader, operational level leader is a way different skill set there. And so doing the role at this level doesn't prepare you to do the role at the next level. And that's one thing, people talk about leadership inside the military and why it's so valuable and pulling those lessons in. But one thing the military does that most organizations don't do, and they have a unique way they can do this that most organizations can't because they're not a for-profit business, but they pull you off the line. Like when you're a platoon leader and you go in, first of all, before you become platoon leader, your first management job at 23, 24, I went through 4 years of West Point and a year and a half of training before I had to do my first management job. And it was nothing but focused on doing that one thing. And then you go do that for a couple of years, and then you come out and they put you through 7 months of training to go before they make you a company commander. And then they pull you. So they're preparing you and setting you up for training. Not that you're going to show up and be a master level at that next role, but you're going to be set up for success so that then you can get mentorship in the role and move forward. And so the idea that I'm proposing here is, whether you're thinking this through an organizational level or thinking it for yourself as an individual, is you should constantly be having like this performance improvement plan, if you want to call it this, a coach, a mentor. Like, what is your plan? How are you getting better? And who's calling out your weaknesses? Because that is like, we all have blind spots, and they're called blind spots because they're hard to see. So like, if you don't have someone calling you on your BS and you're just making excuses up, like, good luck at achieving what you're truly capable of. And I mean, to me, this is like a spiritual thing. This is like, I went from small town in Kansas to the other side of the world on the Afghan-Pakistan border, and in ambush, and seeing how like people live in that level and getting shot at, and seeing people lose their lives, and seeing people sacrifice, and putting friends in the ground. And like, this life that we're living right now, we are living. If you're listening to this podcast, I don't care what country you're in, but if you have the privilege and time to listen to this podcast right now or watch this podcast, you are living a quality of life that 99.9999% of all human beings that have ever existed, and there's been 100 billion humans that have existed, by the way, 100 billion of them, and almost every single one of them struggled for survival every single day. And you have the people used to travel across Asia and lose their lives to get into the Library of Alexandria to get knowledge. And like, we have the world's knowledge in our pocket. And we live at a level of comfort that medieval kings couldn't even dream of. What are you doing with it? What are you settling for? Because what a slap in the face to all those people that you thank a veteran for. Like, are you becoming an American worth fighting and dying and killing for? Or are you settling for the comfort that was granted to you through the effort of others? Like, that's the push. So many people are rooted in this like scarcity or fear mindset that holds them back. And what I invite people into that are listening is that to use the gratitude of everything that they've been given, this life that was given to them just because they happen to be born in this time, in this place, and to be appreciative for it, and be so appreciative of it and filled with so much abundance and joy and love that they turn that into, how can I take advantage of this? Because to whom much is given, much is to be expected. And so there's a mindset shift there that I want to invite people into, that this is not about scarcity or fear. You live in a time of complete abundance. Let's not turn to apathy and comfort. Let's turn to like, how cool, what am I going to do with it?
Absolutely. And I'm curious, I mean, that's such a unique mindset to have and to think from. Was there sort of a singular moment in your military career that sort of defined or transformed your outlook and your views and opinions on leadership?
On leadership specifically.
I know that's a bit of a loaded question, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many like small examples that almost like chip away at that. But I think I would go back to, if we're, and maybe this isn't like the biggest like thing. Maybe this is like the spark of it though. Like the spark that sort of started the fire was, when I went to West Point and the academy, my plan was to become a military intelligence officer. And then after 18 months, I could put in a packet for law school and go be a JAG officer, right? I was gonna be a lawyer. And it would have been the third summer, you go back in your cadre, and I was cadre for other younger cadets, and we were doing a field training. So doing infantry stuff, right? Like running through the woods, carrying rifles, doing ambushes, all that. And it was like the purest form of leadership that I just saw come through in terms of clear mission, clear vision. Everyone has their roles and responsibility. It's your job to create all the things that it's funny, we talk about in business, like clear mission, clear values, clear beliefs. Everyone have clear roles and responsibilities. And then everyone's like pushing together. And then their energy is coming from the leader.
Right.
Like that leadership by example of like, it was maybe one of the first times where I really understood that leadership is a way of being. It's not a set of skills. It's not like, oh, I know how to organize things in this certain way and produce them in this way. It's like, that's not leadership. Like, and leadership is about just being the person that other smart, driven, and dedicated people want to follow.
Right.
And so almost circle back to our point about like coaching our mindset or a way of being or like that sort of thing. Like that's why your first investment has to be in you as you achieve your full potential. But I think that was the first spark of like, running through the woods with a rifle and, saying stop, go, hold, freeze, halt, and like doing maneuvers and seeing just like these pieces and components come from like idea on paper to actually happening in a complex way in real time.
Right.
In like a very calculated way and just like almost like artistry. And then you just disappear and it's gone. And you're like, holy cow, I can't believe we just made that from, it's almost like entrepreneurship. Like we just had an idea on a napkin 24 hours ago. Look what we just did. And then we can learn those lessons and do it again. And so that was my first like time where I was like, oh, wow. I think I got a glimpse into what real leadership was. And I also got a glimpse into like, if I'm going to go and do this army thing, maybe I should just do the army thing and sort of switch to be an infantry officer and a grunt instead of, doing an intel analyst job.
And, we've talked a lot about mindset, but I'd like to talk a little bit about a warrior's mindset. And can you tell me a little bit what was the moment you knew that you had to put pen to paper and write a warrior's mindset? And this might be pulling the cover back too much. I don't want to give away all your secrets. I still want people to go buy the book, but can you clue us in a little bit about what those 6 keys to greatness are?
Absolutely. So when I first started working with leaders and entrepreneurs, again, this would have been 2021, I guess. When we would talk management, right? We talk strategy. They had it down, and we could talk shop and we could talk, all the MBA stuff, right? Like task org, mission values, ROI, MVP, all this stuff. And then we're like, okay, cool. Now let's talk about leadership. Because a lot of times that's what they brought me in for. It's like, well, I want to be a better leader. And I'll be honest with you, even very seasoned executives, I got blank faces.
Right.
Like there was, because I started with self-leadership. Like, okay, let's talk about how you lead yourself. And they're like, what do you even, I'm like, what's your process?
That, right?
Yeah. Like, you have this whole system and process for running your company. What's your process for you? Like, what are your mission? What is your values? How are you operating? What's your next objective? Like and so because I saw this as his lack, I was like, man, even in my own head, because it was sort of built in and inherent to me in a sense, I realized I needed to put some thought down and create a framework that I could teach off of. And it was great for me to sit down and write the book, because when you do sit down and take your thoughts and try to put them into these frameworks, you start realizing like where they aren't as clear as you thought they were, right? Where maybe there are gaps between your logic, or like, well, this thing goes to this thing, and you write it down. You're like, oh God, I don't know if these things go together, right? Or like, how do they go together? And so it was a really great exercise, but it was really me creating a tool and codifying my thoughts on what makes a great leader and what does it mean to, and through that process is when I came up with this idea I spoke about earlier about achieving greatness. And, it's interesting when I first go back to Novus Global, we talk about meta performance, that question of like, what are you capable of? That's like the Novus Global version. When I heard them say that, I'm like, that's the greatness. Like, that's what I've been talking about. Like what defining greatness for yourself. And that's an individual conversation. Right. So, as I laid that out, and I will go over them very briefly, and if you want to ask questions about specific ones, we can. But, I mentioned earlier, to me, the first key is it starts with gratitude. It's creating a perspective around gratitude for what you have and your worldview, because that's a decision. Like the objective world, you and I do not see the objective world. We see the world as it occurs to us, as we decide to have it take. That's the reason you can have people looking at the same world, and some people think everything's falling apart and it's the most awful time ever, and other people are saying this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Like, the same thing's happening. That's a decision about how you look at it. So I think you root that in. Gratitude becomes your fuel, as I talked about earlier. The second key is internal locus of control. Very simply, does the world happen to me, or do my actions determine my future? Am I going to harness this power by focusing on only what's mine to influence? Or am I going to waste time, energy, and effort complaining about things that are completely outside my control? So that's how you harness your power. Then you have a North Star. And I have a whole theory about creating a North Star and a direction. But in very simple terms, it's creating a noble purpose greater than yourself. Because that's another problem, especially in business. We have this idea of when I get the next thing, the faster car, the arbitrator or a bank account, my business hits 10 million in revenue. When all these things happen, when I have a vacation home, then I'll be happy. Right. Then I'll be fulfilled. And every single time it never hits, because, and here's like a clear distinction in terms of my my research and my thought pattern, is this is all like down to who we are at genetic and cellular level, like who we have been designed and evolved to become. Is we're tribal creatures. So you can only experience fulfillment by pouring into others. So when you have a noble purpose that's about impacting something bigger than yourself, that's how you experience fulfillment. And it's okay to have individual goals and you want to have things and money and resources and freedom, like all good. Like we're not moralizing those things. Just know that every time you get one of those things, it's not going to satisfy the emptiness inside you. But if you use those resources to become someone who positively impacts other people, then you will have a fulfilling life. So we need to create a noble purpose greater than ourselves so we know what direction to go with. Then we have self-discipline, right? That's execution. So that's how we turn intention into action. And it's what separates dreamers from doers. A lot of people with big ideas about how they're going to change the world, and they turn on Netflix for 2 hours a night. That's on you. So how do we design systems to make self-discipline easy? And then the fifth part of the 5 of the 6 is perseverance. And so I go over like, how do you, when you shift, right, all the things we've talked about the last like almost half hour, when you shift your perspective to like, I want to hit this revenue number, or I want to get these things, and instead you shift to, how do I maximize my positive impact on other people and maximize my experience of life? Like when you're chasing greatness, like what is the greatest version of yourself? Like, man, you better harden up. Like you better learn to persevere. And here's the part that people don't get about perseverance. Perseverance isn't just about overcoming like challenges and obstacles and hard times. It's about pushing through comfort. It's about not being apathetic when you get the, Ford F-150 King Ranch with heated leather seats and a 5,000 square foot house and like a vacation home. And you're like, I guess I'm good now. Until 20 years later, when you're 75 and you're like, I was capable of more, and it's too late. Right. So persevering through that is important. So I say that because the first 5 keys are self-leadership. And as you grow in capacity as lead yourself, the sixth key is leadership.
Wow.
So now when you use those 5 keys, when you continue to increase your capacity to become a greater version of yourself, now you're able to amplify your impact on others.
And I mean, I think everybody out there who's listening, including myself, has been thoroughly motivated to go and get it together.
Let's go, baby.
Good Lord. No wonder. I feel like I'm going to get off this call and be like, all right, what do I need to start doing?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Lay it up, plan, execute. It's just like, what an amazing time to be alive, and how privileged are we to be here. And you don't have to, this is the one I keep going back to this, because this is like the main problem I see with high achievers, people who probably listen to this podcast, people who are investing in themselves, is that they feel like they have to be motivated by fear and scarcity. They feel like they have to be motivated by a lack. Like if they let themselves be appreciative of what they have, they're going to somehow lose motivation, because maybe it has been fear and scarcity has gotten to this level. And I just want to invite them that there's another way of being, which is looking at your life in abundance and from gratitude, and then move forward with excitement and playfulness and joy. And maybe ask yourself this question: what if you were capable of accomplishing the same things, but from abundance and joy and gratitude? And what if you were actually able to do even more, because you're not draining yourself and fighting this fear and scarcity? So it's just like this shift to gratitude to drive yourself to what you're capable of. It's just an awesome place to be.
That's amazing. Sean, this has been an absolutely incredible conversation. Definitely a motivating conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help and guidance, could use the help of Novus Global, would like to check out A Warrior's Mindset, would like to tune in and listen to some episodes of the No Limit Leadership podcast, where can the people find you?
That's great. I'm super active on LinkedIn, and all my stuff is on LinkedIn. The book, A Warrior's Mindset, The 6 Keys to Greatness, is on Amazon. There's quite a few A Warrior's Mindset subtitle something. So if you search my name under Amazon, you'll find that. And I would just say, reach out to me direct. I have websites. If you're interested in coaching, potentially, it's Sean Patton at Novus.Global. Shoot me an email or send me a message on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation and see if it might be a good fit.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This has been incredible.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity, man. It was great chatting with you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Sean, thank you so much again.
Yep. See ya.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.